The old mechanic wiped the grease from his hands, the smell of oil and rust thick in the air. The clock on the garage wall ticked past 8 p.m., long after closing time. For Frank Dawson, nights were the hardest. The sound of engines used to bring him comfort. Now it just reminded him of what he'd lost. He hadn't spoken to his son in 15 years, not since the night they argued and his boy stormed out, swearing never to come back. Frank told himself he was fine, that pride mattered more than apologies. But deep down, he knew that was a lie. And on this quiet night, fate was about to roll into his garage in the form of an old car and a stranger who wasn't a stranger at all. Before we start, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, let's go back to that small-town garage and the night a broken car brought a family back together. Frank was about to lock up when he heard the faint rumble of an engine sputtering outside. An old blue sedan crawled into the lot, headlights flickering, steam rising from the hood. "Hey there," Frank called out. "Looks like she's running on prayers." The driver stepped out, a man in his 30s, tall, tired, but polite. His clothes were worn, his face shadowed with the look of someone carrying too much. "Sorry, sir," he said. "She broke down a few miles back. I've been pushing her since. I just need her running long enough to get home." Frank chuckled. "You came to the right place. Pop the hood." As Frank got to work, the man paced the shop nervously, glancing at his phone. "You got a family waiting on you?" Frank asked. The man nodded. "Yeah, a wife and a little boy. I promised I'd be home before he went to sleep." Frank smiled faintly. "Kids don't care if you're late. They just care that you show up." The man smiled back. "That's good advice, sir." Frank noticed the way he said, "sir," respectful, familiar somehow, but he didn't think much of it. As he worked, Frank spotted a photo taped to the dashboard, a woman holding a small boy, maybe 5 years old, with the man beside him. He couldn't help but smile. "That your family?" "Yeah," the man said softly. "My son's name's Eli. Smart kid, always asking how engines work. Reminds me of my dad." Frank paused, his wrench slipping. "Your dad a mechanic too?" The man nodded, staring at the floor. "Was. Haven't seen him in years. We didn't part on good terms." Frank's heart thudded in his chest. "What's his name?" he asked quietly. The man hesitated. "Frank Dawson." For a moment, the world stopped. Frank's hands trembled. His throat tightened. He turned slowly toward the man. "I see," he managed to whisper. "And what'd you two fight about?" The man sighed. "Everything, I guess. I was young, thought I knew better. He wanted me to take over the shop, but I wanted a different life. We said things we shouldn't have. I left that night and never went back." Frank stared at the worn face of the man who just walked into his garage. The same jawline, the same way of rubbing the back of his neck when nervous. It was him, his son. Frank swallowed hard, trying to steady his voice. "You ever think of reaching out?" The man, his son, looked away. "Every day. But pride is a funny thing. Makes you think it's too late." Frank nodded slowly, the words hidden deep. "Maybe it's never too late," he said softly. The man smiled sadly. "You sound like something my dad used to say." Frank chuckled weakly. "He sounds like a smart fella." He bent down to tighten the bolt, his eyes stinging. "Car's fixed," he said quietly. "No charge." The man frowned. "Sir, I can't just... No, Frank shook his head. You said you got a boy waiting at home. Go see him. Don't waste another minute. The man stared at him, puzzled. Sure? Positive. He started the engine. It purred perfectly. Thank you. He gripped Frank's hand. You remind me a lot of him. Frank's voice cracked. Take care, son. The man froze. What did you just... But Frank had already turned away, pretending to wipe his hands. Safe travels. The man, Michael Dawson, stood there, realization dawning. His lips parted, eyes wide. Dad? Frank turned, his tough facade breaking. Yeah, he said softly. Hey, kiddo. Michael's eyes filled with tears as he stumbled forward, pulling his father into a hug, the first in 15 years. I thought you'd hate me, he whispered. Frank shook his head, voice trembling. Son, there's not a day I didn't miss you. You're my blood. That's forever. They stood there in silence, the hum of the engines filling the space between them. Finally, Frank laughed through his tears. You still don't know how to change an oil filter, huh? Michael grinned. Guess I came to the right place to learn. They both laughed, the sound of forgiveness echoing louder than the machines around them. Over the next few months, Michael visited often. He'd bring his son, little Eli, who loved watching Grandpa fix cars. Frank taught him everything, how to hold a wrench, how to listen to an engine's heartbeat, and how patience was the secret to fixing anything. Eli called him Grandpa Frank from day one. And every time the boy laughed, Frank felt the years of loneliness melt away. One summer afternoon, Frank added a new sign outside the shop. It read, Dawson and Son, honest work, honest hands. Michael looked at it and smiled. You kept the name. Frank put his hand on his shoulder. It was always meant to be ours. As the sun dipped below the trees, Frank looked at his son and grandson tinkering under a hood. For the first time in years, his heart was light. Sometimes, life has a way of circling back, not through luck, but through the lessons we leave unfinished. And sometimes, the engines we fix aren't the ones made of metal, but the ones made of love and forgiveness. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I love seeing how far these stories travel. Because sometimes the road we take, or the one that breaks down, leads us exactly where we're meant to be.